Welcome students to the course on coordinate geometry. Our very first topic is Cartesian coordinate system. Cartesian coordinate system. So let us first discuss what Cartesian coordinate system is. Cartesian coordinate system is nothing but a system of two perpendicular lines x dash ox and y dash oy. A system of two perpendicular lines x dash ox and y dash oy meeting at a point O. Meeting at a point O. So this system of two lines meeting at a point O constitute the Cartesian coordinate system. And the plane defined by these two lines, which is the plane you're seeing, is called the xy plane. Plane defined by the lines x dash ox and y dash oy is called the xy plane. And x dash ox is called the x-axis, y dash oy is called the y-axis. X dash ox is called the x-axis, which is usually horizontal, not always, which is usually horizontal, and y dash oy is called the y-axis. And the point where these two axes meet is called the origin, usually represented by O. So O is the origin. Now these two axes combinedly are called the coordinate axis. So these two axes are called the coordinate axis. Now in the coordinate axis, this part OX, which is on the right side of y dash, is called the positive x-axis. This is the negative x-axis. OY is called the positive y-axis. OY dash is the negative y-axis. That is, the distances measured along this direction, along the direction of positive x-axis are positive. The distances measured along the negative x-axis are negative. The distances measured along the positive y-axis are positive. The distances measured along the negative y-axis are considered as negative. So this is the positive x-axis. So we denote the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. These are the units on the positive side of x-axis. And -1, -2, -3, so on. These are the distances on the negative side of x-axis. 1, 2, 3, so on. These are the numbers on the positive side of y-axis. -1, -2, -3, so on. These are numbers on the negative side of y-axis. So this is the positive x-axis, positive y-axis, negative x-axis, negative y-axis. And all these combinedly are called the coordinate axis. Now, every point on the xy plane, can be uniquely defined in terms of an ordered pair containing two numbers. So every point on xy plane, can be defined uniquely, can be represented or represented uniquely. This is an important point. Uniquely with an ordered pair x comma y, where x is called the x coordinate of the point and y is called the y coordinate of the point. That means if you take any point on the xy plane, it corresponds to a unique ordered pair x comma y. X is called the x coordinate, y is called the y coordinate. And these are called the Cartesian coordinates. X comma y are called Cartesian coordinates. And what is the definition of Cartesian coordinates? So if you take the x coordinate the definition of x coordinate is the distance of this point from y-axis. The distance of the point from y-axis measured in the direction of x-axis. The distance of the point from y-axis measured in the direction of x-axis. That is, you go from y-axis and measure the distance of this point from y-axis in the direction of x-axis. You should not go in any direction. You should go in the direction of x-axis. So as you can see, this distance is called the x-coordinate. And what is the y-coordinate? Y-coordinate of a point is defined as the distance of the point from x-axis measured in the direction of y-axis. So start from x-axis, measure the distance of the point in the direction of y-axis. So this will be the y-coordinate of the point. So as you can see from this figure, so this distance will be exactly same as this distance. Is found to be 1. So the x-coordinate of this point is 1. As you can see, this distance is exactly same as this distance. So the y-coordinate is 2. So the coordinates of this point are 1, 2. So this point corresponds to the ordered pair 1, 2. So if you take any other point, let us take this point. What are the coordinates of this point? Again, there are two coordinates, x-coordinate and the y-coordinate. The x-coordinate is defined as the distance from y-axis measured along x-axis. So this distance will be the x-coordinate. So you start from y-axis and measure the distance. So as you can very clearly see, the direction in which you are going is the negative x direction. The direction in which you are going is the negative x direction. So you're going along negative x. So the distance also has to be measured as negative numbers. So negative just represents the direction in which you're going. If you're going along the positive x-axis, you take the number as positive. If you're going along the negative x-axis, you take the distance as negative. So the distance is 2, but in the negative x direction. So the x-coordinate is -2. Now, what is the distance of this point from x-axis? So start from x-axis, measure this distance. As you can see, this distance is exactly same as this distance. And this is the positive y direction. This is the positive y direction. Hence, the length is 1 in the positive y direction. So the y coordinate will become 1. For example, if you take a point in this part. So let us take this point. So now what is the distance of this point from y-axis? That's the x-coordinate. So start from y-axis, measure the distance. So you can very clearly see that this distance is 3 units, but in the negative direction. So the x-coordinate will become -3. And what is the distance of this point from x-axis? So start from x-axis, measure this distance. So you can very clearly see that this is also 3 units, but in the negative y direction. So the coordinates are -3, -3. So there are two important things. You measure the distances following a standard convention. So you have to measure them in this convention. So the distances measured in the direction of positive x-axis are positive. The distances measured in the direction of negative x-axis are negative. Similarly, positive y-axis direction, y-coordinate is positive. Negative y-axis direction, y-coordinate is negative. So what is the x-coordinate of the point? X is called the x-coordinate. X is called the x-coordinate, or is also called abscissa. This is a common name. What is the abscissa of a point? That means what is the x-coordinate of a point? So abscissa or x-coordinate is defined as the distance from y-axis. The distance from y-axis. If you want the x-coordinate, you want the distance from y-axis. And measured along the direction of x-axis. Measured along x-axis direction is called the x-coordinate. Similarly, what is the y-coordinate? So y-coordinate is usually called just ordinate. So what is the ordinate of a point? Again, it's the distance from x-axis measured along y-axis. Okay, so this is the distance from x-axis measured along y-axis. Okay, so again, the sign is important. If you measure in the direction of positive x-axis, the number is positive. Negative x-axis, the number is negative, so on. Now, with respect to the coordinate axis x dash ox and y dash oy, the whole xy plane is divided into 4 parts. The first part, second part, third part, fourth part. And each part is called a quadrant. This is the first quadrant, this is the second quadrant, this is the third quadrant, this is the fourth quadrant. And in the first quadrant, if you take any point, both the x coordinate and y coordinate are positive numbers. So you can see very clearly, because if you take any point on this quadrant, the distance along x-axis is also positive, the distance along y-axis is also positive. If you take the second quadrant, the x coordinate of any point on this quadrant is negative and the y coordinate is positive. And if you take the third quadrant, the coordinates are both negative. And in the fourth quadrant, the x coordinate is positive and the y coordinate is negative. So these are called the 4 quadrants, and depending on the quadrant, the signs of the coordinates of the point changes. So coordinate geometry is a branch of mathematics which studies different curves by representing the points by the ordered pairs x, y. This ordered pair x, y is also called Cartesian coordinates. So coordinate geometry. This is a branch of mathematics where different curves are studied by representing the points on them with Cartesian coordinates. So in coordinate geometry, we employ algebraic method to solve geometric problems. Algebraic methods to solve geometric problems. Because once we represent the point by numbers x, y, we can employ the algebraic methods where you represent the unknowns by variables x and y. So this branch of mathematics is also called analytical geometry. Analytical geometry. So coordinate geometry is also called analytical geometry, and what this branch of mathematics tend to do is it combines algebraic methods with geometrical problems so that geometrical problems can be solved more easily. So now, once we understand the coordinate basics of the coordinate geometry, so we can go forward. So the important things that you need to understand about coordinate axis are that 1. So the coordinates of origin are 0, 0. So origin has coordinate 0, 0 because the distance of origin from x-axis as well as y-axis is 0. And any point on x-axis. So any point on x-axis is of the form some x, 0. The y-coordinate of the point on x-axis is equal to 0. So if you take any point on x-axis, the y-coordinate will be equal to 0. Similarly, and any point on y-axis, any point on y-axis is of the form 0, y. Means the x-coordinate of any point on y-axis is 0. The y-coordinate of any point on x-axis is 0. the x coordinate of any point on y-axis is 0. That means if you have this point which is at a distance of 1 unit from origin and on x-axis, the coordinate of this point will be 1, 0. The coordinate of this point will be 2, 0. The coordinates of this point will be -1, 0. The coordinates of this point will be 0, 1. The coordinates of this point is 0, 2, so on. So if you take any point on x-axis, the y coordinate will be equal to 0. If you take any point on y-axis, the x coordinate will be equal to 0.